So just a little bit of housekeeping before we cover what we're going to be looking at this afternoon, in that the webinar is going to be recorded, and we will put that up on the website in the next couple of days, and we'll send you a link to that. At the end of the presentation, what we'd like you to do, we'll be very grateful if you could possibly complete a short online evaluation for us. It's always good to get feedback, and it helps us know what went well, what you enjoyed, but also more importantly, what we could do better next time, and also helps us find out from you what we could do as further training or resources. Okay, so what will we be covering? So we're going to be looking at immersive food and farming days in schools and linking those to the Gatsby benchmarks. And this is something that Iona is particularly going to be talking about from a secondary school point of view. It's going to be looking at school farm visits and hands-on experiences for pupils, particularly supporting cross-curricular links and also overall well-being. CVAS accreditation and why it's important. Josh is then going to be talking about what he's doing in primary schools and looking at Leaf Education Awards, what could be a farming curriculum, and the impact of enrichment on farms. And then we're going to do just a little bit on food effective life resources, and then some other resource hubs that are available, particularly for resources around where food comes from. And then hopefully by joining us this afternoon, you would have had lots and lots of suggestions for food and farming initiatives that you and your pupils can get involved with. And you'll see at the bottom of this screen that I've put a link to the sustainability and climate change strategy that the government introduced in 2022, I think it was, and then it was updated in December last year. And within that, it does say quite strongly that a lot of sustainability education should be done in schools, and particularly it highlights food and nutrition as a subject where pupils can learn about the natural world and the importance of sustainability in context, which I think is great, because that's one of the wonderful things about food and nutrition, is that it helps with their learning in context. And hopefully for you today, be understanding the kind of things that you can do with your pupils, taking them out on farm, doing different things in the classroom that will help them learning in an experiential way, but also in a relatable way. So you might be interested in having a look at that link when you get this PowerPoint presentation, so you can find out a little bit more about it.
Hi, I'm Josh. Before I get going, I'm just going to give a quick background about myself and kind of why I'm talking in today's session. So I've been a primary science leader for 6 years now, and my work within primary science field has been recognised by the Royal Society of Chemistry, as well as the Primary Science Teacher Trust. And I've won some different awards for my commitment and drive for improving primary science education, not just within my school or my maths, but within the local authority as well. Last year, I was awarded the Primary Science Teacher of the Year award. And previous to that, I was recognised by the Royal Society of Chemistry as we came out of COVID. Oh, I'm not sure why it's gone ahead. As we came out of COVID, sorry, for my enthusiasm and kind of effectiveness in kind of breaking down stereotypes of classic portrayals of scientists. I also lead CPD for STEM learning, and I'm an accredited professional development leader for primary schools, so I tend to go into schools to support science within their curriculum. I'm also part of different partnerships, such as the Enthuse Partnership, where we look to raise aspirations and enthusiasm for science, showing that children can access science, not just within school, but within their futures as well. I'm a big believer of education doesn't end at the school gates, and it definitely goes farther afield. More broadly, I've acquired national professional qualifications in leadership as well, middle and senior leadership, and more recently we've become a Leaf demonstration school, and we actually now, I know that says the Bronze Award, but we're working towards our gold, because we've recently just got our silver award. So yeah, so lots of things going on. As well as that, after this session, I'm going to be submitting a portfolio for our Primary Science Quality Mark Outreach Award, which we began in 2022. So yeah. So here's some of the things I'm going to be talking about, kind of LEAF Education Awards, which I've already touched upon a little bit, how we encourage farming to be threaded throughout our curriculum, and kind of the impact on children and different stakeholders, really, by doing that. Different events and enrichments on farms and the impact of that, and kind of some articles and resources that I've produced too. So looking at the LEAF Education Awards, I'm not sure whether any schools have kind of done this or have thought about it, but it's a really good way to kind of get your curriculum to have lots of enrichment activities, but also it's a journey really, where your school will access CPD, but also your curriculum will be enhanced. So just have a look through there. I'm not going to read out all of those points for how to achieve the Bronze Award, but you can see there a bit of a picture of kind of what you might do and how that might progress your curriculum on. Number 6, which talks about farmer time, was really useful for us to actually get a chance to get in touch with different farmers without having to go further afield or to travel to farms, but to access online different farmers, and actually for the children to raise questions about where food might have come from, or anything basically to do with like agriculture, machinery, technology. There were so many different questions from that, but also over time with farmer time, you develop a relationship with the farmer, so that's quite nice too. I know that children in my class comment on, oh, Farmer Michael and Basil the dog, and they're eager to see Farmer Michael and see what he's been up to with his dog Basil. So our farming curriculum, we do lots of outreach and lots of different work, but we worked with the NFU and we did something called the STEMterprise, which is where different year groups focus on kind of becoming enterprise champions, if you like, through STEM. It was a really nice experience. The NFU actually came in and we were kind of a case study school, but we also had lots of different farmers bringing their tractors into school. Different animals came too. It was a really nice week, kind of just looking at farming and kind of where our food comes from. I think it helped to break down the stereotype of a farmer and his wife, because we had some female farmers come too, which was really nice, because even the teachers, different teaching staff, commented on that they kind of had also had that kind of preconception of a farmer and his wife. So it challenged not only the children's preconceptions and misconceptions, but also teaching staff too. We've also made sure that farming's throughout our curriculum, so within our history, when we look at the ancient Egyptians, for instance, we think about kind of the importance of the River Nile, but also within the Stone Age, we kind of look at how, sorry, my screen just went a bit funny there. We look at how Stone Age people who were nomadic became then farmers afterwards. So we really kind of focus in on farming and make it quite explicit that we're looking at farming too. And within geography, we've kind of considered the British Isles in Year 4, considering different regions within the UK, and what kind of farming types they might find. So, for instance, with East Anglia and Lincolnshire, who are known for large arable farming, the children are understanding of that now, and kind of why that might be, that there are quite fertile soils there and it's a favourable climate, as well as then thinking about the Scottish Highlands and Wales, who are obviously renowned for livestock farming, particularly sheep farming too. As well as that, we kind of, through our LEAF work, sort of adapting our curriculum, we met with the governing body across our MAT to kind of make our schools have that goal of becoming net zero. But that was really important for us, thinking about sustainability too. But also as a Church of England school, we consider farming throughout our prayers, harvest, and so on. There's lots more I could talk about, but I'm going to whistle. This is a whistle-stop tour, so I'm going to speed through. We've also had comments from our head teacher, who has really not only kind of endorsed this, but also promoted it across other schools through head teachers too, who are very on board with this kind of thing. So farm shops and visits. Sorry, I'm having to go through really quick because I'm conscious that I'm already going over a little bit. Farm shops and farm workshops and visits. So we went to lots of different farms. We've had lots of different experiences. I'll let you read through what some of the children have said there, but the children absolutely love going on farm visits. And I think working with LEAF has allowed us to go on more farm visits than we would have previously. To be honest, we probably didn't go on any farming visits before working with LEAF and kind of adapting our curriculum. And the children probably did have that misconception that our food comes from Tesco, rather than thinking actually where it does really come from. And the importance of supporting our British farmers has become a real staple, I think, across our wider community as well. So thinking about also the impact actually on children who haven't been out to farms before, or who haven't experienced the outdoors as well. It was really good for our pupil premium children and children who might be seen as disadvantaged. As well as that, we went to Chef on the Farm, where children met with an experienced chef. And they had, it was really nice actually, because they got to make soup and actually share and eat the soup for their lunch, as well as thinking about where the food had come from on the farm. So that was a really lovely time. As well as that, we've got some different resources. So I wrote a resource for Countryside Classroom called Story Sticks, which connects nature and writing. I haven't got time to go into what that is, but it might support maybe children with SEND if you're thinking of secondary schools, but it's a really great one for all primary children to access. I've also written articles within the primary science journal, which is by the Association for Science Education, that really highlights the importance of farming and actually why we do that within our school. But as I say, I have gone over there, so I'm sorry about that, but hopefully that's a whistle-stop tour and shows you a little bit about what farming could be like in your school. Thank you.
So my name is Iona Corbett. I'm Faculty Director for Technology, Creative Art and Design and Head of Food and Nutrition at Chipping Campden School in Gloucestershire. Little bit of background just so you can put it into perspective where my knowledge has come from. I was a farmer's wife for 15 years, lived on the dairy farm, so a lot of my experience of having school visits, running school visits, background to where I've developed my resources from has sort of come from my own personal experience as well as my teaching experience. So topics that I'm just going to whiz through today is looking at immersive food and farming in schools. So looking at what we're doing here at Chipping Campden, which is essentially, it started off as a food and farming day for Year 7, whereby we had local farm businesses come in and talk to all the Year 7s, including organisations such as LEAF. We're developing that further for next year, so I'll touch on that a little bit more in a minute. School farm visits and hands-on experiences for pupil, how we can support cross-curricular learning and overall well-being. CVAS accreditation and why it's important when considering taking pupils on farm visits. What is it and why is it good to link with CVAS accredited organisations? And then Countryside Classroom, I think this will be touched on as well later, but the resources, what it is and how you can benefit from it. And then links to food, a fact of life. I'm a secondary school teacher. I teach right through from Year 7 to 13. So right across Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5. And all of it is sort of come into place. It's been relevant for all the key stages that I'm delivering to. So immersive food and farming in schools. So these are some photos from one of our food and farming days. And as I said, we have local farm businesses come in and talk to our Year 7s. So they go round in a round robin system. Each of the businesses is set up on a stall. And we've previously run it for Year 7. Local farmers, local representatives from organisations. So the two pictures you've got there, you've got a guy that produces local honey and he brings part of his hive in, and the kids are fascinated by it. They love trying to find the queen bee, and they get totally hooked by it. The bottom one is a local dairy farmer, but she comes in and she brings some of the equipment they use, some of the milking equipment. She talks to them about how their products are used. She also brings them free ice cream samples, which they love. And then we have some arable farmers and a vegetable producer as well from a local direct sale veg shop down the road. We have had Camden BRI and Moore Bakery, which are just on our doorstep. We are quite blessed, I guess, with the amount of agricultural businesses we've got in this area. So next year we're looking at developing it further to bring in more for looking at the Gatsby. So again, these are images from the show, from the day that they have. They spend about 10-15 minutes with each stand and they rotate round. So we split it over 2 one-hour period lessons. Half the year group will go in the first half of the hour, the second half of the year group will go in the second hour. And that's how it's run for the last 2 days, but the last 2 years, sorry. And we found it's been quite beneficial for them, particularly when we're covering where our food comes from as part of the curriculum. They can then relate exactly to farms that we're talking about, and it makes it easier for us to draw on experience when we're in class and provide them with situations and scenarios. So as I mentioned, Gatsby, the food and farming day is great. We're looking to develop it now to incorporate Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5 and more of Key Stage 3. And hopefully by doing that, we'll be able to develop the links further, provide career talks as well, information about apprenticeships, because obviously we've got Year 11, Year 13 at school, so they're looking at next steps for them, particularly if they're wanting to go into agriculture. We are in an agricultural area, so we do have a lot of kids that will follow. A number of our kids are from farming families as well, so it's really good to draw on their experience as well and bring them into the conversation about where their food comes from, what they do on their farms, what their parents do or their grandparents. So by developing our food and farming day further, it will give us much more of a broader spectrum of the Gatsby benchmarks. So how are we developing it for next year? We've got careers workshops for the sixth form booked in. We're being supported by some companies, so specific career lecturers from companies such as McCain Foods and some of the agricultural colleges around here. So we've got Hartpury down the road, we've got Warwickshire College, we've got Pershore, and we've got Morton Morrell literally within sort of half an hour's drive of us. We are doing a grow your own with Year 7 and 8. So in the summer term, they will be growing their own microgreens and fruit and veg seeds. Some of it we can use in class, particularly the microgreens, and then the other bits they can take home and carry it on at home. But I think it's a good way of connecting what they're doing in school with what they're doing at home, or what they can do at home with their parents and get their families involved. Food testing, as I said, we've got Camden BRI down the road, which is a massive food testing centre. And they've offered to come in and do some work experience, demos and things like that with some of our Year 9s, conducting food testing experiments with them, taking that on then, preparing them for doing their investigation work at Key Stage 4 for GCSE. And then finally, we've got some hand-on practical bakery practicals, courtesy of Moore Bakery down the road for Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5. Where they actually have a teaching classroom down there and have invited us down so we can take them off site, but they're also happy to come in and do things with us here. So they're seeing a spectrum of where it's coming from, how it can be used, what it can do, and then also the careers element of it as well. With regards to school farm visits and hands-on experience, when I was still on the farm, as in my farmer's wife role, I would take round all the school visits that came. Obviously, having the experience of being a secondary school teacher kind of allowed me to have a better idea of what was needed from a curriculum point of view. And we sort of developed it in preparation for doing Open Farm Sunday, which I'll mention later. So I would take round GCSE science groups using the farm from the point of view of their coursework focus. We did some really good visits. Off the back of those visits, we were nominated and we won the Bay of Face Food and Farming Champion Award for promoting what goes on the farms and looking at how we can improve things for the future. The experience that I got from coming from the kids that came around to visit was incredible. Not just from a teacher's point of view. You could see their whole perspective change on things. The teachers learned an awful lot more, which they could also take back to the classroom and relate back to it. I put things very much in layperson's talk when I would do it, so I would compare things. So, for example, if I was talking about the gestation of a cow and where the milk comes from and everything, I would relate it back to human pregnancy, etc., because then they can relate to it. It makes much more sense to them. And I think farmers that have done the CVAS accreditation, they will have gone through training on how do you make it more accessible to people from non-farming backgrounds that may never have set foot on a farm before in their lives. So the visits to the farms are so beneficial for the kids. You see that light bulb moment come on for them, and it's really, from my perspective on the farm at the time, and for my husband to see that light bulb moment come on and realise he was making a difference to what their knowledge and understanding was, for him was a real pat on the back that they are doing good things and they are being appreciated, because farming gets so much criticism in this country, particularly from propaganda. And students are exposed to that propaganda online all the time. And it's really good for being able to break those myths down and the stigmas associated with it. It's also great for their well-being, getting them out on farm. They experience so much more than just having a walk round or looking at the animals or being in a different environment completely. One thing I would say is possibly pay a visit yourself first, other than for the obvious reason of carrying out risk assessment. Visiting the farm for yourself first will give you a better idea of the language that's likely to be used, the various acronyms that farmers will chuck at you, and they use a lot of acronyms. It's quite a steep learning curve. And it gives you an opportunity to simplify what happens into layperson's talk. This is one of the things that came up at a webinar I did before Christmas with AHDB. There were comments there between the farmers and myself and another somebody that does farmer time, was the language can be quite hard to get your head around. So if we can simplify the language, and we were talking about producing a resource for school teachers and for farmers so that communication barrier is broken down. And just do your homework a little bit, do some research and find a farm that is CVAS accredited. Open Farm Sunday is a really good way of having a look around the farm, first of all. This was the Open Farm Sunday that we did, and it was supported by Leaf, organised by Leaf, but supported by lots of the big processors. So we had stuff from Arla, from Tesco's, all sorts of other companies gave us freebies to give out. They're really well supported, but it's a great way to gather information and resources. It also allows you to have a little bit of a sneaky peek before you consider organising a visit, because you can just go on the guided tours round, gather some information and work out what you can and cannot use in the classroom. So, great way to get a feel for what being on a farm is like, and nice to share with the family too. Great Sunday day out. It's a great way to gather information and resources, and it also gives you an opportunity to have a look at how you could use a farm visit and fit it into your curriculum. Also makes that link with the farmer. It's a good opportunity to touch base with the farmer and see whether or not they would be willing to work with you in one format or another. So what is CVAS? I've mentioned it a couple of times now. It's the Countryside Education Visits Accreditation Scheme, and farmers can sign up to it. It takes 2 or 3 days depending on the route that you do, and there are 2 different routes. So farmers can be accredited via 2 routes. There's the education route, and then there's also a care farm route, depending on where their interests lie, I guess. So many of us would be going down wanting to find one through the education route, but if you are maybe special educational needs focused, care farm route might be more appropriate. And they will have been trained on how to interact with students. Are they qualified? So what they end up getting is a Open College Network Level 2 award standard. That's what they're trained to. They're trained in the curriculum needs, they're trained in cross-curricular opportunities, how to plan and risk assess sessions, and how to present to children of all ages. And they are taught to link what they are offering to the national curriculum. So I did my CVAS training as well, just so that I had a better feel for what was being offered. It also gave us an opportunity to use it as a flag when we were doing our school visits. But it is worth looking at which farms will have CVAS accreditation, because they're more likely to be open to school visits. They're also going to speak the language a lot more and make it more appropriate and focused for yourselves. And then finally, in school, CVAS also covers farmers going into schools to work with students and provide them with resources. So again, if it's easier for you to have somebody come into school, like we do with our Food and Farming Day, then again, look for CVAS accredited farmer. So where can you go for links and ideas? The 2 places I would certainly point you in the right direction of are Countryside Classroom. Fantastic supply of resources. You can search for farmers, you can search for places to go and visit. They've got downloadable resources for all the key stages. More key stage 1 and 2 though, I would say, and 3 gets a little bit more harder, key stage 4, key stage 5, but Food and Fact for Life is there as backup for that. Food and Fact for Life has got loads of brilliant resources on it, particularly schemes of work. They've got send provision resources, they've got curriculum maps, loads of recipes, loads of careers info. And it's very much, and the information there for a whole school food approach as well. So you can work with your management team on the whole school food approach, not just what you're doing in the classroom. There's also some remote learning there, which might be good for an alt-prof situation if you've got any alternative provision that you need to cater for. But any questions, feel free to email me after this if you want to, or if you're in my local area, North Gloucestershire, great to hook up and see if we can work together on some things for you.
Brilliant, that was great. Thank you very much, Iona. That was really interesting and really good to hear about the CVAS training and your own experiences and how important it is for the teachers to have a look for farms that have got farmers that are CVAS trained. So brilliant, thank you. So if you wouldn't mind unsharing your PowerPoint, then I can share mine. And then what I'm going to do is just going to go through some more Food and Fact of Life resources. It was lovely that both Iona and Josh mentioned about Food and Fact of Life resources. So it was lovely to see that. And let me just get my slide up. Right, hopefully everybody can see that. I've covered that already, what we're going to be covering. Right, so this is what I'm going to be doing, is just talking about just a few of our resources. So I liked what Iona said about bucket loads of resources on the website, and we do absolutely have bucket loads. We have over 3,000 resources available on the website, and quite a large proportion of them are around where food comes from. So the first thing really to highlight is our knowledge organisers. And you may well have seen these. So we've got a knowledge organiser for every topic that is covered on our website. And particularly for each of the age phases, we've got one around where food comes from. And then also we've got them on food commodities as well. So you can link that quite nicely with the where food comes from themes. We've got specific where food comes from resources. And what you can do for those is go on the website and have a look at the age phases. And there is a drop-down menu. And one of those is where food comes from. And you'll find a huge array of PowerPoint presentations, lesson plans, worksheets, videos, lots of different things for you to use. Similar for the food commodities resources, and we've got some lovely videos on there about growing and food production. And some of them have been very kindly donated to Food Effective Life from Tesco's, but they go through some really nice short video clips about how certain foods are grown or produced. And then we've also got some question sheets that go alongside some of those. I did notice on Josh's PowerPoint that he had a slide from one of our challenge activities, and we have a number of challenge activities for age phases from 5 up until 16. And with these challenge activities, they are PowerPoint presentations, which are basically an activity pack. And within them, the students are given a brief. And then as part of that, the first few slides are lots of background information about the brief and about the topic. And then at the end, they're given a challenge. So that could be around creating a menu, or it could be creating a dish, or growing some ingredients, or finding out about life on a farm and creating a poster or something like that. Some of them actually lead to a practical outcome, but some of them don't. And then at the back end of the PowerPoint presentation, there's lots and lots of resources for teachers to actually download and use, which will support the actual the challenge activity. And then for those that are interested, there is a certificate that you can print off once the pupils have achieved the challenge. We've also got lots of posters on the website. We've got some new ones around pigs, which AHDB have produced recently, which are on the website. So the one on the screen there is the Meet the Experts, and that's all about the people who work with pigs on the farm, but also vets and other people that look after the animals. So lots of nice things to download, print off, and actually use to decorate your classrooms, but also to make them informative for the pupils as well. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to, hopefully we can hear this, we're going to watch a couple of quick videos.
How do we help our school children better understand and engage where their food comes from? How do we bring farmers directly into the classroom and bring learning to life? And how do we do that using the technology we already have in our pockets? I'm farmer Tom Martin, and the answer is Farmer Time. It's a video call every 2 or 3 weeks from the farmer to the class, from the field here to the classroom. And it enables children to ask questions of a farmer or a food producer like myself about the things they've been learning about in class. It's a fantastic resource. It's great for farmers and it's great for teachers. It's fun, it's informative, and thanks to our sponsors, it's free. And you can find out more today or sign up now at farmertime.org.
The Royal Highland Education Trust, or RET, offer learning opportunities linked to food, farming and the countryside. We support the curriculum as well as linking into developing the young workforce, learning for sustainability and STEM. Our transformational learning is offered both in the classroom and on the farm. We want to instill confidence in teachers so they can deliver factual, relevant and topical learning opportunities to their students. So, we deliver CLPL opportunities online, in schools and on farms, covering a wide range of topics. We also support teachers in their delivery through providing resources for class engagement. By providing information and sharing stories, we take learners on a journey to support the consumers of the future and help build a more sustainable society. You can find us at www.ret.org.uk.
Hello, I'm Sam, and I'm one of Leaf's educational specialists. Now, I'm here today in a very windy Yorkshire, but the education team are based regionally right across the country. And we're working day in, day out with farmers, teachers, and young people to deliver exciting educational opportunities. Some of our work is virtual. I've been here today delivering a farm tour linked to careers. Been in the grain store, been in the field, we've dug up some worms. You can find out more about our virtual tours on our website. As educational specialists, we're involved in the production of education resources. Things like the Helping Everyone Eat Better documents and the Why Farming Matters booklets. Now, these resources are designed to help teachers and educators deliver topics around food and farming and sustainability. All of our resources can be found on the Countryside Classroom webpage. Many organisations post food, farming and environmental linked resources onto that platform, and it's a great place to start looking for that type of material. The thing we all love doing the most though is getting young people out onto farms to experience the farmed environment. And that could look very different on different days. It could be farm visits for very young children to find out a little bit about a farm, or it could be something for much older students who are interested in careers, food provenance, science, geography, all sorts of different ways we can use the farmed environment to educate our young people. We couldn't do the work that we do without the farmers, of course. There are so many amazing farms out there who invite groups onto their farms on a regular basis. Most of the farmers we work with in terms of delivering educational visits have an accredited qualification, CVAS qualification. That's a qualification that demonstrates a farmer understands how to make visits safe and educational. I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight into the work that we do here at Leaf Education. All the details about what we do can be found on our webpage, or you're more than welcome to contact your local educational specialist who will be happy to point you in the right direction.
Okay, excellent. So, so those were three other organisations that you might like to get in touch with in order to find out a little bit more about what they do for schools around where food comes from. And we will share these videos with you, but the Farmer Time website has changed actually, so we'll share the new website link with you so that you can contact them if you'd like to. A couple more things before we finish, and then we'll see if we've got any questions for Iona and Josh. Just a little bit about keeping updated with regards to Food, a Fact of Life. So just to say that we've got our Education News newsletter, our monthly email update. If you're not signed up for that yet, please do. You can find a link for that on the website, and we'll be able to tell you everything that's happening, what's happening with regards training or any new resources or anything else that's coming up. And we have a new one coming out next week, so do sign up before then if you can. We've also got a specific newsletter for training, which is our PPD newsletter. That's a bit more ad hoc, so when we've got some new training, we'll send one out. We also have Twitter or X, and then we've got a dedicated email address as well. So if you wanted to contact us but you couldn't remember my name or one of my colleagues' names, we've got our education@nutrition.org.uk website or email address for you. A little bit about more training. This one actually is really relevant to what we've been doing today, and it's the second in this series of webinars around where food comes from. And this is a farmer called James Taylor, who actually has a care farm, and we've been there actually as a team, and it's a fabulous place to visit. And he's going to be presenting a webinar on sustainable farming in practice, and actually really talking through what he does on his farm on a daily basis to ensure sustainability. So if you're able to join us then as a build on to what Iona and Josh have talked about today, then that would be fantastic. And we'll send the details out for that. And also we've got some online training as well, some modular courses, and we'll give you the links to these in a PowerPoint presentation. These are free, so you can sign up and do them in your own pace at your own time. So thank you very much for joining us. We will just see if we've got any questions for Josh and Iona. I've just got one burning question which I want to ask before we finish. But what I would like to say is that as usual, we have an evaluation, and we'd be very grateful if you could just spend a few minutes just completing the online evaluation for us. And then once you've done that, you will actually receive a link to a downloadable certificate that you can download, add your name to, and then save for your records. So Josh, if you would like to join us just for a minute, and we'll just have a quick look and see what sort of questions, if there are any. So if you had one top tip for teachers wanting to develop their where food comes from curriculum, their farming curriculum or experiential learning, what that might that be?
Well, I think first of all, I kind of digressing a bit off your question. One top tip for farming would be to go actually and make sure you do the pre-visits, like Iona said. For embedding it within the curriculum, I would say really, I think my process and my journey has been valuable through actually working in partnership with Leaf Education. I think without their support, obviously they've got farmers already as well who they liaise with and kind of are farmers who will pitch right and things like that. Then obviously I think that would probably be my top tip. I know that sounds a bit silly, but to say to kind of, but I think actually Leaf Education, yeah, that would be a top tip for me. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. No, that's super. Thank you. And Iona, do you have a top tip?
I'm just going to go back to comment from Richard Home actually first about the one about Tesco's, etc. I think it's really important to understand that, and obviously I've got slight inside knowledge because I used to do all the paperwork for my ex-husband and the jumping through the hoops for these large organisations. You know, they are very much following a ticky box exercise, and they are making it harder and harder for their farmers to meet standards and what have you. And whilst there is that welfare element, there is naturally that issue of what they're wanting to influence their customers, their consumers, etc. I guess I have that benefit of having been in that system, being able to look at it from a different perspective slightly. But I do think it's important that we need to explain to students about local produce, you know, on our doorsteps, buying local, particularly from little farm shops and those sort of businesses that haven't got the influence and the power that the likes of Tesco, Sainsbury's, etc. all have. They have massive buying power. And if you think about it from a milk production point of view, there's a handful of processors buying milk from all the farms across the country. And actually it's being marketed as this, that and the other, and 100 different types of milk, but realistically it's coming from the same 4 or 5 processors in the UK. So it is important, and I think it would be really good for you to, if you are talking to the students about it, do a bit of homework on those sorts of things. It links really well with the sustainability side of things, but do a bit of homework. A lot of the organisations will have educational officers, so it is worth finding out through them or linking up with people on LinkedIn. I've met a lot of farming organisations and companies through LinkedIn and done a lot of networking over the last 18 months or so with them. And it's great because you can build a much more open rapport with them and really get down to the nitty-gritty of it. So certainly from that point of view. But yeah, again, as a teaching tip, I guess, use LinkedIn for networking with agricultural companies. They're going to be more approachable than you actually think they are. They are desperate to build a rapport with the education side of things. I sometimes think they come about it from the wrong way. I was really lucky to go to the Oxford Farming Conference last year through a leadership training scheme that I was on. And I was able to meet an awful lot of people that way. And actually, when you started talking to them and what they're needing to do, they're very much saying, well, how do we get this through to students? How do we get this out to the general public? And I was trying to say to them, you need to link up with schools more. You need to be educating and working with teachers more. And I know Food Fact for Life and AHDB have started doing a lot more of that, as have Leaf, trying to build that bridge between the two. So start networking with agricultural companies, find out who their educational leads are. G Produce is a really good one. They've been really forthcoming and they're very positive about trying to put things across to students and support teachers with getting information out there. So I think you do need to, I'm happy to talk to anybody about this off this webinar if you want to email me about it, but I certainly found connecting with people through LinkedIn really helped.
Great, that's brilliant. Thank you. Some really good top tips, and Richard has appreciated that as well. So thank you. And Josh, I think you were going to answer a question about growing, I think, weren't you?
So Ruth asked about how to actually set up a growing area or a kind of growing scheme within school. We were kind of at that point a few years back. And we actually went to a local garden centre who actually supplied us with compost and things like that. But we also we did like a charity event where parents and like local community got involved to raise money for us to access bulbs and different resources for planting, like for the children to wear and use as well. So definitely ask around the local community, but getting parents involved as well. That's really helped us, and we're kind of on the mission now to kind of create enough capacity, I suppose, using our growing areas to actually fuel into the kitchen, the school kitchen, and actually use what the children have grown to in turn be used for lunches and things like that. But obviously that's a huge step to take, and we're still not quite there yet, but definitely ask local garden centres and get your local community involved too. Another point back kind of building on what Iona was saying, the NFU is really good. They've got lots of resources online, but they're also really helpful. I actually worked with one of the education officers previously in Warwickshire, and she's really helpful with anything kind of, not just liaising with farmers, anything kind of with the curriculum, or anything, basically anything goes with asking her to.
Brilliant. That's great. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you both. Just on the point of growing gardening, we do actually have some resources on Food, a Fact of Life about how to set up a growing scheme in school, and lots of support and guidance around that. So I'll make sure when I email everybody the link to the webinar recording and also the evaluation that I include that. So thank you very much. I think that's all the questions. Thank you, Iona and Josh, for giving up your time. We really appreciate it. Really helpful, and some really great ideas for teachers to take back.